Well, good morning again, my friends. And let me welcome you back once more to the Invisible College. Yes, I know. This is going to be one of those different lectures. I really enjoyed doing the little fireside chat one I did last Friday, I think it was. Today is Monday, the 11th of October. And I've made a decision that I'd like to do at least one of these every week. Now, as you know, most of my lectures I prepare, and I prepare them very carefully. I make slides, and I write out lots of text, and I know exactly, what I'm going to say, and I make sure that I say it. And they're quite long lectures on the whole, usually over an hour. And hopefully, at the end of that lecture, you'll have grasped something. It might be something to do with the Book of Revelation or some other subject. But I've made a decision, and I'm going to do these little lectures with no slides. That's the rule, and it has to be just me to camera, and we'll just see what comes up. I've got a few ideas about what to talk about, but we'll see how the thing develops, and I'm going to try and keep them short, under half an hour if I can. So what I want to talk to you about today is what I would call the big picture and why I can be helpful to you. Because I know, you scan around the internet, I know I do, and there's millions of channels to choose from there. And you see, there's a lecture perhaps come up with me, or someone else next to it, and you think, well, which one shall I click on? Oh, I'll go, I've seen Adrian before, I'll click on something different. Well, I want you to understand that I do have something special to give you. Now, each of us has a talent. We've all got talents, may have more than one. And if you read your Bible, I don't remember exactly where it is, but in the parables of Jesus, I think it might be in Luke's Gospel, I'm not sure. He talks about the parable of the talents. I'm not going to explain that to you here. I've talked about it before. But basically, each of us are given talents, and we have a duty to use those talents. And I've come to understand that my talent is putting together diverse ideas. To give you some background, when I was a very small boy, 3, 4, that sort of age, I had a passion for jigsaw puzzles. And I was staying with my grandmother's down in Merthyr Tydfil in Wales. And she went out to the local shop and bought the most expensive jigsaw that she could get. Sorry, the most pieces, most difficult one that she could get. It wasn't cardboard, it was made wooden pieces. To keep me busy, So I did the jigsaw, it didn't take that long. And then I broke up the pieces again and did it again a couple of times. And then I thought, well, okay, I've done that, I turned all the pieces over and then did it without the benefit of the picture, just using the shapes of the pieces. And I didn't think anything of that, but she was amazed, but I didn't think anything of it. But I see this as a metaphor now for how I approach life, that I always want to see how pieces fit into the jigsaw puzzle. Now that's kind of the opposite of what happens with academia. When you go into academia, you may have done your A-levels, in your chosen subjects. Let's use science because I know it better. So you might have done maths, general physics, general science perhaps, and economics or something like that, at school. And then you go to your university and you do a degree. And your degree leaves out, you've already left out all the sort of English language and history and all those other arty subjects. And you're not really interested in the sociology, and you've abandoned the economics, so you're focusing now on physics, let's say. So you do your degree in physics, Then you want to do your master's degree. So you have to focus then on some aspect of your physics. It might be electronics, let's say, or perhaps it's something to do with light. Or maybe you're more a theoretician and you've decided you're going to do quantum mechanics, quantum physics, let's say. So you do that for your master's, and then you've got to do your PhD, and you want to get your doctorate. So you've got to take some area of that hasn't been covered before by anyone else, or not that much, and you study that subject, you make it your own. And then you want a career, and you have to find an area that you can be the specialist in. And in due course, you become quite high up and you become the professor of whatever that thing is. Now, this approach is what I would call atomization of knowledge. You start from the general and you work down more and more to a sharper and sharper point until you end up being the absolute world expert on something so remote and weird and esoteric within your field that only a handful of people really understand what you're talking about. But you are the expert, and maybe you get a professorship out of it. But the problem with that approach, that atomistic approach, is that you cannot see where your piece of knowledge fits in the larger picture. It's like you've got one little piece of that jigsaw puzzle, and you haven't a clue whether this is a piece of an umbrella or a car wheel or the lady's dress or whatever in the larger jigsaw puzzle. You're just hanging on to this one piece and you're studying that one piece in minute detail, but you don't know where it fits in with the overall collective wisdom of the human race. So my life, my approach has been towards putting pieces together. Now, I might not be the world expert in that one piece, but I know that it fits here, and that another piece, perhaps coming from geology, let's say, fits here, and another piece coming from astrophysics fits here, and another piece coming from religion, perhaps Christianity, let's say, fits here, and another bit from Buddhism fits here. And gradually you build up a larger map, a picture of human wisdom, and that from that picture you begin to understand the global situation of where you are and what life on this planet is really all about. Now that sounds boastful, but I ask you, do you know why you're here? Do you know what life is about? Have you questioned what you've been taught in school, what you've been taught in university, what is broadcast to you through the mainstream media all the time, certain worldview, these days an atheistic worldview. I see David Attenborough on television. I think he's about 150 now, isn't he? But he still is wedded to this idea of Darwinism and the evolution of life from microscopic organisms into gorillas that he can go and cuddle. Well, that's only one view. That's a theory. It's the theory of evolution. It's not truth, and it's not actual knowledge. It's a theory. And you say, yeah, but it's well founded. They've worked it all out. You go into that, you start probing it, you'll find it's built on sand. Because ultimately it depends on the idea that complexity can just come out automatically out of matter from nothing. And we know from our own experience that doesn't happen. If anything, things go the reverse way. Yeah? These pieces of equipment I've got here, you see this, I've got a mixer unit, right? It's made of metal, plastic, wires going in it. Left over time, that would rust. It would fall apart, it would disintegrate. And the same with almost everything we see around us. The only things that don't do that are things which are alive, which renew themselves. And even then, they have a lifespan, and then they die, and then they fall apart. So something else has to keep things renewing themselves and alive, and that is the breath of life. And you don't understand that from physics. We cannot create life in the laboratory. We can tamper with it. We can turn what was a benign, to us anyway, bat flu virus, we can weaponize it and turn it into something that causes a massive contagion all over the planet. We can do that, but we couldn't invent that out of nothing. And to think it's just going to happen automatically is, to my mind, daft. Which brings us to the point, how do we get here? Why are we here? What is our purpose? And that is what you need to be asking yourself. You need to say, what is my purpose here? Why am I on earth? And then you need to look at your skill set and say, what are my talents? What can I contribute that nobody else can, or that very few can? And work with that. Because believe me, everything has a purpose on this planet. Nothing is here for no reason. It might not always be a reason that's good for us. It might be for other reasons, but everything has a purpose and a function. And we need to understand our place within this. And I'll give you another analogy before I close this little talk, because I don't want it to be too long. We pride ourselves on our brain. Yeah, we got the biggest brains in the animal kingdom. I think so. Maybe whales have bigger ones. Who knows what they think. And we prize ourselves that we can make things, we can do things, we can control things. Yes, we might not have the sharp claws of a lion and the big teeth of a wolf, but we can hold our own because we can make weapons. We can defend ourselves. Even if it's only a sword or a knife, better still a machine gun, and we can dominate this planet, and we have done. Even with microbes, we can throw Dettol on them and kill them. So we are a very dominant species here. But what is our purpose? It's not just to dominate, is it? And what we have to begin to understand, and a good analogy for this, is to think of our brain as being like this. Yeah, this is a laptop computer. And the laptop computer, I remember I got my first computer back about 1980 or something. And it was wonderful, It was just a keyboard with it's got gubbins in it. You had to plug it into a television set, and I had a cassette recorder I could plug into it to record things. And I wrote my first book on that. And I thought that was wonderful, I got a home computer. Before that, I used to program huge, great £1 million computers, which had to be in special rooms that kept at a certain temperature and kept the air kept clean and so on. Great big cassette player or record recording players and disk drives that are the size of a washing machine. Now, the average iPhone is more powerful than those computers were. Much more powerful. Things have progressed. But one of the things what changed the computer world was when we learned how to plug it into the internet. And suddenly the computer, instead of being just its own self-contained brain with its own memory, it became a window on an incredible bank of knowledge and possibility. Everything, the encyclopedias, anything you want to know about, you just type in the word and up comes, keys to show you where you can find people discussing that very thing, or maybe a training video on YouTube or something. And it changed our lives completely. Now, of course, you can do that on your iPhone. Carry it with you, and it doesn't have to be plugged in. It can just pick up a Wi-Fi signal, and it can do all those things. So I want you to understand that we are like those computers. Yes, we can function as independent units with a certain life and lifespan and death. You say, well, the machine's dead. That's it, it's finished. Or, if we're wise, we learn how to activate parts of our brain that enable us to plug in to the universal internet, which is the mind of God. And if you can do that, then suddenly you begin to understand your whole purpose has changed. And this is what I'm trying to teach you. I'm trying to teach you, first of all, that this is true, and that the fall of man, which we read in fairy tale terms in the beginning of the book of Genesis, eating apples, being tempted by serpents, all of this fairy tale way of presenting what was a very real event, which was a severing of our connection with the cosmic mind, with God, and therefore the loss of our understanding of our purpose and the building up of our ego self instead, and our collective egos. We were tempted, yes, there are other entities on this planet besides us, intelligent entities, who don't want us to leave, don't want us to find ourselves, that want us to live and die and live and die and live and die and be slaves to these other intelligences. That's the reality. Or we can find our way to connect, reconnect, and we will find our ticket off here. So, and you look around space and you look at all those stars and all those galaxies, and I'm told there's more galaxies in space than there are grains of sand on all the beaches in the world. I don't know who computed that or how, but that's what we're told. Maybe it goes on infinitely. Yeah? Who knows? But there's a lot of space to explore, and there's a lot of other places for intelligent beings like us to go to. Maybe wearing bodies like these, maybe other types of bodies, who knows? Maybe being disembodied. But we don't have to be stuck here on planet Earth forever. So this is what I want to show you and to teach you. And I'm going to show you various ideas from different philosophical systems, most of them Christian, because I very much believe in Christianity and I believe in Jesus Christ, and it is the way for us. But there are he wasn't the only one that knew anything, and it's not the only way. We can find knowledge in other places too, and I'm particularly interested in ancient Egypt. And I've started doing lectures on ancient Egypt for the members of the college, which brings me to my concluding remarks, and that is I've set up this YouTube channel as a broadcast to the world. Anyone can come along here and look and watch and hopefully learn something. But I've also set up the Invisible College, what I call it, which you can actually join, and that's going to be more concentrated teachings, more structured, and hopefully it will help you to progress, because that's my duty. Yeah, I've had 72 years of life. I don't know how much more I've got. Maybe I'll live to 90, maybe 100. Maybe I'll die next week. I don't know. But while I'm still here with feet on the ground, I recognize that it's my duty to pass on what I've learnt in those 72 years, and particularly the last 50 years when I've been on the way. So if you are minded and you find my work interesting, I would ask you to come along and join us, which you can do through Patreon, and I'm going to put the link down below. Only costs you £5 a month, which is nothing. The price of a pint of beer. There are higher levels that you can join at as well, but that's the basic. And come along, and you will find that this thing is going to grow. And those who come in on the basement, the first entries, as it were, you will be my founder members. And we have 18 so far, which is great. Only be going a few weeks. But I want more, and I want this to be a worldwide movement where we spread knowledge and we get away from this atomization of everything into small and small, so you know more and more about less and less until you know everything about nothing, to seeing the global picture, seeing the big picture and finding out where your piece of the jigsaw puzzle fits, where your special talents work best, and how you can use those in service to God. So I'm going to leave that with you, and thank you for listening. I look forward to talking to you again. Bye-bye.